And in that, he said, don't look for meaning with anything, because you will never find it. Look for or not look for it, but just be with the experience and explore it. And what I found so interesting about when I thought about that in those words, because I think it's very similar to what we've talked about in the group before, about how we make things up and how we put a story onto things. But as he said, don't look for meaning, what I experienced in myself was this quiet of just being, as you said this morning, with what is. And as you know, been on that philosophical path for 40 years now. And that is really the central core of it. And yet it's still how can I say, it never stops igniting a different experience in me. And that is a very, very, very difficult thing to, my experience is that it is a very difficult thing to translate to people generally in life, because we attach so much to the meaning of things. And I think that to me, that's really fascinating. That the very thing that brings us often joy, a sense of accomplishment, as we grasp our understanding of things, and yet it's the very thing that holds us back. Until we become aware that it is our story, that it is a story. And to be curious, as we've said here so often before too, right? I mean, that's one thing that you've really encouraged always from the beginning. It's that curiosity. What's on the other side? What else is there?
So often, right? We're looking for what is out there. Like that's the only
Yes.
It's out there. What is it? And it's a situation, it's something happens, it's something that, because there's always things going on, but it's something that comes into the awareness.
Yes.
And I used to take that like an automatic, and just like attach onto it the same way every time.
Hmm.
Unaware, right? It was like that's just out there happening to me, and so I'm just going to respond, react. React, probably a better word, react. And so it was out there is doing it to me. And really, all that's happening are trillions of chemical reactions at every second. You know, trillions of different chemical reactions happening are going to give us a degree of different feelings. That's what they are. We call them feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's other ones that are just happening that we right? We put food in and food comes out. Like, that's one quote set of these chemical reactions.
Mm.
And yes, we give it a word, we give it a meaning and a definition. What is it? Oh, that's living. Because if food doesn't go in and it doesn't come out, she won't have life.
Yeah.
So what is it's like just in a general, like seeing things for what it is. Oh, that happened. That triggers a chemical reaction in me. I call it a charge. Just helps me. That's just one way for me
Mm.
to check my presence.
Mm.
Other things is I will, like as you speak, I will connect to what you say and it opens up something deep inside of me. Some like something from my past experiences that I need to pay attention to. Yeah, this is so hard to explain it. Like you said. Is your word presence? Presence is can be different from present. And not the
Mm.
gift present, but being present.
Yeah, so
Being
being
present in the
present with,
moment, what is.
and that and that is being in a moment of presence.
Mm, yes. And if we ask how many people are present, 100% would say they are. I'm here, present. And we do it, we call it, it's roll call.
We should do our own roll call, because I was thinking also that how often am I really present with my presence?
Yes.
Right?
The moment you put awareness on it, yes, you are. So
Yeah.
truthfully, it was like, yeah, in that moment when you asked, I was present. So 100% of the time, yeah, right? You're missing the point, which means you don't do it, which means you aren't, which means you're,
You're kidding yourself.
yes, thank you. Well, that is that's the trap of our awareness, and our ego mind is like we get these chemical reactions get comfortable, right? And so we start to judge the chemical reactions when all they are is just telling us information.
Mm.
They're guiding us. I mean, that's the energy that guides our action. It's through us, but we can
Mm-hmm.
also look at it that, oh, what the world tells us is what we do,
Mm.
how to be. So important to pull apart the being and the doing in the present. And I think the only way to do that is to look at, oh, what is in front of me?
And what is inside of me, as you said.
And what is inside of me? Sometimes it's just, it's always with myself, but sometimes myself gets triggered by what other people are doing, how they're being, or our interaction. And that will, of course, that's going to cause a chemical reaction.
So Jess, as you were saying that, for me, what I started to, what got um, demonstrated for me was how incredibly complex the body really is, because it's not only what is in me and what is out there, but what is, as you said, the reaction. So what is the connection? Where's the connection between me and what's out there? And what does that bring about? Is it a positive, negative, or neutral? And usually we go for the positive or the negative. And we kind of ignore the neutral. But that's when we've got really good focus, We can choose the neutral. And our neutral will change, and our positive and negative will change. Because it is just constantly changing. And we can either consciously choose, or we can unconsciously react, or allow the unconscious reaction to take place. And you think, I mean, I'm standing here, like my mouth is dry because I'm dehydrated. And I'm looking at the plants outside, and the plants are dehydrated because it was hot yesterday. And I'm talking to you about internal, external point of connection. So where's my focus? Is my focus outside on the plants, or is it inside where all the physical chaos is? No water this morning in the water filter. And our bodies are able to take in much more than what I've been able to speak to. Much, much more.
Good morning, Allison and Jesse. Good
Morning,
morning.
Annette. Oh, I'm so happy to hear your voice.
How are you guys doing?
We're blasting back to the past. We got another legend coming in.
Oh,
dude.
Another legend. Hi,
Is that
Mona.
Mona?
Good morning.
Oh,
Good morning, Allison.
hey,
Oh,
Mona.
The
Morning,
crew is.
morning, Jesse.
it's so good to have you guys with us.
How's everybody doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Excellent.
I must say, the feelings of joy this morning in the last few minutes from everybody's excitement and pleasure sounds is actually quite invigorating for the rest of my day. I feel so good.
I honor your awareness of that.
So what's new happening? What's new happening for you, Jesse? How's your son and his gymnastics going?
He's recovering. So we had shoulder surgery a couple months now ago. Went really well, and so healing. So he's on track for recovering from his first major injury.
I'm sorry to hear that he had to have shoulder surgery, but I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, bigger tear than they anticipated, and so. But yeah, he's at the Olympic Training Center this week. So he gets to go hang out with everyone, get treated up there even while he's recovering. So it's cool that they allow him to do that.
I think it's important for teammates, even though that they're injured, to be around their other teammates. They probably see the value in that too.
Oh, they do. He loves being around those guys. And then it's good morning, Pascal. It's like thinking
good morning.
The being. And then so like this morning we've been not really. Observing what is. and Annette, you did it so well. It's like you called it out, the joy, the excitement of legend, like our history coming together again, and it's been a long time.
Thank you. That's one thing I have learned is not to hold back, regardless. You know, if it's great or not great, it's there's no harm in it's not voicing your opinion, but it's just voicing your being. How's that?
Mm, mm. I think we could all learn to do that better.
Mm-hmm. Take the ego out of it.
Mm. Take the ego out of the lead.
You said out of the lead?
Yeah, take the ego out of the lead.
Lead, Lead. Yeah.
Lead as the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Throw him in the back seat.
And
Ask
don't
if
let
they
him
want
be
a
a
sip of
driver.
yes, but ask them if they want a sip of water once in a while.
How's the view, ego? Just
Yeah,
enjoy the view, ego.
you
I
have to
do
stop
need
for
you. I
yeah.
do need you. You are important.
Yes, yeah. We do make washroom breaks.
Take a nap.
Oh, yes. So one thing I've noticed, that we're talking about ego and stuff like that, I've seen a rise in some YouTube videos that just happened to come across my feed, trying to explain what is consciousness and what is unconsciousness. And I thought, oh, that's a really, really big subject. There's no real answer for that, is there?
I would agree
Yeah,
because it
I just,
moves across. Huh?
yeah, yeah. Well, it's good to hear about your son. He's doing well and still participating with the team. It's really good. Does your daughter do a sport or a hobby of some sort?
Hobby crafting. So crafting, yeah, it's amazing what she crafts, arts, paints, glues. Yeah. And yes, and so she went out for golf for the first time this year. So she's some weeks she's on the varsity team and some weeks she's not. Which is fine, which means she's right at the level, the cutoff level between but for her first year, her first time ever really playing golf, she's having fun being around other girls.
Sounds like she's killing it too.
Yeah, I'm proud of her. Yeah,
As you should be.
I'm proud of her. Not for so it's like looking at it. It's like I could be. It's like Troy. It's like I could be proud that he's one of the top in the nation, which then is like almost in the world, right? And it's like, but it's not for that. That's not why. Now that's good to say. It's like good to like it adds the it's all for the ego. That's all it is. It's like I'm proud of his commitment.
Yes. I hear you on that one. It's not the ego, it's a celebration of his success. And for that you have joy.
Because it
And
is
that's
success, right?
yeah. Because in the end they're the ones that are driving the bus, so to speak, as far as what they would like to do with their sport or their choice of hobby. and we just sit back and just enjoy their successes.
Mm.
We don't get in the way and tell them what to do, because that's forcing, right?
Mm.
And I don't want to bring my pattern into it, which was all about, oh, if in sports, if I can make a name for myself, if I could just win enough, then I'd be good enough. And oh my God, was it just a misery transferred to sports, to business. I mean, it's a pattern everywhere. And it's just like, oh man, I don't want it there because it's empty. The result is empty.
Mm.
So it's a tough line to celebrate that who they are and becoming, because it's their dreams, their passions, and they're working into it, right? You're in the journey with them and like celebrating the accomplishments.
Mm.
Yeah, the key is not to be attached to their achievement.
Mm, that's right. It's not like it's not who they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Because rather than telling them how great they are, we ask them how they feel, how they did, and have them validate themselves.
Mm.
Wise words.
And what do you do if they are critical, Annette? And not critical, not critical in a good way. let me fall right into the trap. Not critical in a good way, but critical in a bad way. In other words,
So they're
denigrating.
Yeah, self-sabotaging.
Exactly.
So as you know, I had a son who competed in track as well, and he also made it to the national level, never international, but to the national level. And he was one that didn't go out and boast or brag about, look what I won here, look at me here. He was always very quiet. Even in high school, when it was time to get their ribbons, he wouldn't go get his ribbon until the end of the day. He'd just collect them all at once, because he didn't want to be one of those kids walking around with these, flying ribbons attached to his t-shirt. He occasionally was down in the dumps about his performance. But what I did at the time is I broke it down into sections. So the whole race was not terrible, because there were good parts of the race. Maybe his, out of the blocks, or, when he came around the last turn, where was he positioned? So trying to, because when they're negative about themselves, they take it as the entire picture. And what I remember doing was, I guess because with umpiring and baseball and all that, we look at it as every inning is like another game.
Mm.
And so the other thing too, if he was negative about something, because sometimes they're looking for something, I would just ignore, because they're looking for some sort of attention. But again, he was not one that was always seeking attention. Just trying to think about one of my other kids who was, we would sometimes just try and come up with a plan. And then we would just go do a different activity.
Mm.
But I think a lot of it comes from how they're raised.
Mm.
See, what I said about asking them how they did, don't tell them how they did. You can say, afterwards, but ask them first, how do you think you did today? And get them to validate. There was actually a Montessori teacher, preschool Montessori teacher, that told me that when my firstborn, my eldest one, started Montessori school. Don't tell them that they did a great job or they were fantastic at them. Have them tell you. Have them ask them, how do you think that you did today? How do you think, this task went? And get them to talk about it. And then you can compliment it after that, because they have already assessed for themselves that they have done very well and why they've done well. And if they
And so
haven't done well, you can ask them questions. Well, why do you think that? What could you have done differently? Like, obviously into the language that of the age of the child, so they can understand.
So what I found interesting is that the teacher asked or suggested that you ask them how they've done, how they
Mhm.
think they've done.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering what happens to the feeling of how they've done when they focus just on their thinking.
Well, I'm trying to think when I would ask my kids, how was your day? How did you think? Or they have a piece of artwork. What do you think about this? How do you, or just asking them about it? They would be beaming and saying, jumping up and down, trying to tell me, right? So I think the emotion, depending on the age of the child, is attached to their answer.
Mm.
And I still ask that question today to my boys
Mm.
when they've done something. I ask them first how they feel.
Mm.
How do they think that they, how
Mm.
they've done? And they will say, like the other day, my one boy says, "Oh, I'm so proud of how I got this because I've been struggling with it, blah, blah, blah." And he was proud. And then I would say, "Well, I'm really proud for you too. Makes me really happy."
Yeah,
Right?
that's amazing. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. Because then they're not seeking validation because they're validating themselves.
Yeah.
So I
And
can remember, go ahead.
sorry, I mean, what's being modeled for them is that what they think is more important than what you think.
Yeah. I can remember when I was probably around 18 or 19 years old, maybe 19 years old. My sisters always seemed to struggle to get attention from my dad, and she went off to university and gave him a picture of her. And inside, back then it was just the cardboard card-like folder with a picture on one side, and on the other side she wrote a message, "I'm going to make you proud." And what happened with her, she started university, and after a year she didn't like the course, so she switched courses, went another year to university, and this was at Waterloo, so it was a very expensive university. And then she decided that she was going to go to college, do a different study for herself. And my father, he took the picture out of that little folder and gave the empty folder back to her.
Oh God.
And you can tell it's difficult for me to talk about because there he solidified that he was not proud of her. Yet she was doing something for her own life. She was trying to find a career that suits her. It put a big rift in that part of the family. And when she got married, he wouldn't go to her wedding because he was still disappointed in her.
And that was his story.
Yeah. Now she ended up having 2 kids, and she came back to him, and they worked out something. I didn't get involved as to specifics, but they are incredibly tight today. But in the meantime, she took psychology courses. She changed.
Mhm.
She went into like recreation and leisure studies to be a travel agent and stuff like that. But then after she had kids, she then went back to school and she took psychology courses. So, but she's very controlling.
Mm.
But anyways, I guess the part of the story is, as children, sometimes um, they seek for some sort of validation, like I'm going to make you proud, when in
Mm.
fact, you don't make somebody proud.
Mm. Mm.
He took that power away from her.
Yeah. We do terrible things as parents sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We really do.
And I think we all have a version of it. It's like it's the learning that we need to do. It's like that pattern just ends up being empty when we're doing it for someone else.
Yes. And because
Mm.
I witnessed this, I did not want to do that to my kids.
Mm.
That's how we learn things,
Hey,
by
good
doing
morning,
it the way
Heinz.
other people didn't do it.
Hey,
Yes.
how are you, Heinz?
I'm great. Good morning, Jesse. Good morning, Mona. Good morning, Annette. Good morning, Pascal. Good morning, Alison.
Good
Good morning.
afternoon, Hans.
You were having such a great conversation, I chose to just go on mute.
Mm-hmm. So Desi started this morning off with being aware with what is. And then Annette,
What? Sorry.
sorry, Hans.
Oh, I was just going to say a funny thing about parenting. It doesn't matter how great you do it, you will always fail somewhere.
Yes.
Kids will always complain, why weren't you tougher on me? Why weren't you?
Yeah.
There's no handbook for
Just
it.
there
That's
you go.
why.
Well, there's no handbook for life, really speaking, I guess. Right?
Exactly.
Just
But
do
I
what
guess
everyone else is doing, huh, Heinz?
yeah, I guess you've done a great job when your kids tell you, like they told Cinderella, you know, Mom, we really
Mm.
like.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mm.
Then it shows you've done a great job. They've become adult, and they say, well, they like the way that you did it.
I second that.
And
And we can only do the best with what we have.
Yeah. There's a
So I think,
little, sorry, Hans.
oh, I would just say, I think Annette is doing the right thing. She saw the way she shouldn't do it with the way her father did with her sister.
Mm-hmm.
even if we didn't like what our parents did, we end up doing it ourselves if we're
Oh
not
God,
careful.
yes.
Yes.
Because it is all we know. It is all we know. We think
Oh,
we're doing
yes.
the complete opposite, but no, we're just doing a different color of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, one of the things that I did differently for myself, so I wouldn't be in that same trap, because he was paying for her education, and he paid for all his kids' education except mine, because I insisted on paying for my own post-secondary,
Hmm.
so that he could not hang that over me.
Mm.
And then you did it the best way you could because you went in without no expectation from anybody else but yourself.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because one of the things he asked her was to pay him back for the 2 university years, and because she's also stayed in residence there too.
Mm.
But that puts pressure on, because there was 4 kids, and that put pressure on all of them, like the 2 younger ones as well, when because they were several years apart, the first 2 and the second 2.
Mm.
That put a lot of pressure on the second 2, that if they went off to school and he's paying for it, there was a mold you had to follow.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
it's not really paying for it if it's something you can take back. A gift is something, well, if people don't appreciate it, well, you still gifted it.
mhm.
Mm.
But that was, what is it called? Conditioned payment.
Mm-hmm. Hans,
And like, sorry.
when you said earlier, that we all do what we can at the time, there's a little English poem, and I don't know if I have it all correct, but it goes something like this: about do what you can with what you have, where you are, whenever you can.
Mm.
And it kind of refers to not having any regrets, so be aware of what you have. Be aware of what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah. Our best today won't be our best tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And our worst today won't be our worst tomorrow.
Nope. That's why I like the quote from the Bible: forgive them, they know not better.
Yeah. Yeah. So Annette, I'd like to ask you another question about your YouTube interview in terms of consciousness and unconsciousness. And I'm just wondering what did it ignite for you? Because it is such a big topic.
Yeah, most of them I've seen as YouTube shorts I've come across.
Okay.
And they speak in such generality.
Yeah.
Because like I said, because you can't put a thumb on it. You can't pinpointed.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any words that can actually describe it. So for me, it was like, well, it's this vast space.
Mm.
And parts of it we can control, parts of it we can't.
Mm-hmm.
But we can manage it all.
Mm.
And it goes back to observing, right? Not forcing.
Mm.
But we can also manage it by recognizing what's there and how we are going to approach it when we do recognize parts of our conscious or unconscious.
So thank you for that. So when you say that, what came up for me was, I don't know that I necessarily want to control anymore. Although I will speak to correction, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if I had to put it as my want, as my desire, it would be to manage. Because if I control, I'll control one thing and shut another thing down. And so I limit then what I am a part of.
You limit it because you have experience in it.
Well,
Or
if you
why are
manage,
you limited?
yeah, you're limiting. If you control something, I think you limit it. Because it's for me, right? That's got to do with the
Yes.
wording, right?
Right. Because you create a box for it to be in. You create boundaries for
Yes.
it then. Yes.
Well, there's a grasping rather than a boundary. Yeah, we go back to boundaries and barriers.
Yes.
And of course, ultimately, there is only one, right? I was thinking about it the other day because the other morning we talked about boundaries and barriers. And I said, well, our body is a boundary. So we have to deal with boundaries. And it's a good thing. And I really do believe that. Well, that is my experience. It's almost like contrast, right? We can't see the light if we don't have the dark. However, what I also realized afterwards when I was thinking about this was that my skin is porous. My body is porous. It's contained by my skin and other layers before that. But it breathes. So boundaries are alive. And managing for me, to manage something, has got that porous notion to it. But a barrier is way more fixed. It's like steel.
It's sort of like the difference between healthy boundaries and limiting boundaries.
Mm. Mm. As you experienced with the EU and Denmark stay in things because it's according to their rules, it can't have as big a say.
Yeah, strange rules in Denmark.
They talk too much.
Have way too many taxes. Way too many.
Yeah, we can see it as boundary, or we can see it as creating something new.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah,
Expanding our spaces.
yeah, it's in the spirit of what is. It's like, what is that out there? It's like, what is it? Oh, when we call it, when we know what it is, right? We're less curious about it. And that allows for that fixedness. It becomes a barrier.
Mm.
Mm.
Same
Mm.
thing. So knowing something is not being curious about it. It could be.
Yes. Yes, you can have both, right? You can have a knowing and you can have a continued curiosity.
I didn't before,
Mm.
when I took everything personal.
Mm. Mm.
Well, if people say things to you, aren't they actually personal?
Ah,
Mm.
yes and no. Yes and no, Hans. Yes and
There
no.
you go.
But I couldn't allow yes and no. I only took it as one way. You are telling me what to do, and how dare you?
Exactly.
How dare you? There was no other option, and I sure wasn't curious about it.
Mm.
Yeah, we were ready to
No,
fight. We're ready to
Oh.
fight. Let's go.
it's not fun being told what to do.
And I married myself. We took a personality test, and the guy that administrated the test said, "Oh, she's just a stronger version of you." And I went, "Oh no."
Not again.
That's why they say behind every strong man, you find an even stronger woman.
And cheers to that. Amen to that. Got me to where I am today, that's for sure. Like in my awareness, what I couldn't see.
Mm.
The problem people often have with that, it's hard to see things when you're not looking at yourself.
Mm.
When you're always looking around you for the answer, then you won't see the difference anymore.
That's right. That's right. Looking around you, looking out there. It's like very similar to what we talked about. Or, it's like my childhood drive was to prove, and there was no need to. It's like I look back now, and it's like, no, my parents loved me either way. I was the one that was putting this challenge on me. And so there it is. I like a
But tell me
challenge.
I'm right. I need to hear it.
Mhm, mhm. And whether it is or isn't the pattern, it doesn't matter. It's like that's what resonates for me as it is. Like that's where I saw the biggest breakthroughs, was when I looked at it through that lens. And it keeps coming back, right? That experience of it for me. So I speak about it. I mean, we touched on it a little bit today, but it's like, oh, what the crowd is doing is what, like what everyone else is doing is what we think we should be doing.
Mm.
Now that works when we're driving right? And we're on the sidewalk, right? And like it works in certain things, but not many.
It's also the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I think I can really control everything out there. So just to think that I can. And then when I do, like when I have that mastered, like right out there, when I master everything out there, oh, and then I'll be okay in here.
But that's the funny thing about life. It's frequential, so it will have, you will master it and you won't master it. You'll master it, you won't master it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It's always in flux.
And I think, Heinz, what you're sharing is a way to look at just what it is, just to look at the bare bones, to strip it down to the bare bones, and then see what do I add on top of it and around it. What do I suffocate it with?
Hmm. Yeah, we are great at that.
What is that? Oh, it's a rock, right? We don't go any
And then we
further into
push
the
our
rock.
beliefs onto the rock.
Yeah.
Like the
No,
rock actually
there's-
cares about our belief. Like my son had painted these what they called. Well, you put your clothes on. And I asked him, why would you paint it like that? Because it looks cool. Well, when you put your clothes on it, you can't even see it, and when you look from the side, it looks like they're dirty.
To
Oh,
you, it does.
oh, he could see it also because when you paint stuff, you're standing with great light all around you.
Yes.
But when you put it in a room, there's only light where you put it. So big difference. He could actually see what I told him, but it looked more like an accident. And I would probably have kept them all black, but he wanted splatter effect on it and everything. I just said, well, it doesn't really matter when you put your clothes on it. Then you can only see a little of the splatter effect, and it looks dirty. Oops. But he had to try stuff for himself. I wanted to actually give him the possibility to fail and learn something because he's not great at learning without failing.
But Heinz, you let him expand.
Yep.
You let his artistic side, he could experiment with it and he could see what the results were.
Yeah.
He can also flip his pants. I mean, mine are good for a week, you know, 3-4 days on one side, 3-4 days on the other.
Well, haven't you tried them front on the back? Then also you can use 3 or 4 more
Front,
days.
back, yeah.
And
I
then
haven't done that
inside
one.
out, front, back.
I haven't done that one. I don't think it's that comfortable, but yeah. I'll let you try that and let me know.
Sorry, Pascal. That only works for underwear, not pants.
Oh, I don't wear those. That's easier.
Okay, then it works. It works for you.
Then they can see it when you flip them outside, inside out, on the outside. If you don't wear underwear.
Yeah, I make sure I don't fart in them.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Consciousness and farting all in one conversation.
Consciousness.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
farting
it's
is unconscious.
It's sharding.
Farting.
Oh, yeah.
I just sharted. It's a shit fart. Sharted, shit fart. The US thing.
It's kind of like shit, I fart, but
Yeah.
oh, it might have been more than just fart.
Been a long time since I heard that word.
It's a good reminder, isn't it?
We are getting older.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're
on
improving
those
our vocabulary.
on those ridiculous giggles, I'm going to say thank you very, very much for my good morning. It was wonderful to
morning.
be with everybody here this morning. Have a great
Yeah,
day,
absolutely.
guys.
Yeah, you
Thanks, Alan.
too,
You
Allison.
have a good day, Alison.
Bye, Allison.
And so she said the giggles, and it's like, oh yeah. So we worked through some wobble. We wiggled and we giggled, even with sharks.
Any words for today?
What is presence? So it's like we talked
Mm.
about what is, and then, but what is the bare bones, and then what do we attach to it?
Ooh. And it became personal.
Yep. Like how do we see it? So it's like what's out there, right? As it comes in here to us, as it comes to us, right? We attach to it. We put things on it as we filter out all that's around us.
Mhm.
So, and then it's presence. So it's like, oh, if we're aware of what is, then we are present. We are presence. Like our presence is in the present,
Mhm.
which is a present. Our presence in the present is a present.
The gift of life.
And we have wonder filled. That reminds me of the joy of being together with friends. You know, Annette and Mona haven't spoken in a while. It's joyous just to reignite.
Mm.
I've actually been on mute, just laughing my pants off over here. So
Well,
it's
be
quite
careful. Be
humorous.
careful. Don't get too excited over there.
Mhm.
Oh,
I know I got to watch that. It's fun, right? It's fun, right? Annette?
yes, yes,
And it's so
it's
healthy, all this laughing.
yes. Early in the morning or at the start of the day, it's absolutely wonderful because it sets a tone for a good part of the day. I hope.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, it's easier to ride the wave, right?
Yes. very little effort to divert from it. Then you can just stay in that space. Well, I'm going to have to go because I've got an appointment in half an hour to take off for. So I have a couple things still to do here. Thank you very much for this laughable morning. It was really
Well,
good. I'm glad I showed up and could share it all with you.
But have a great day.
great
Yeah,
day filled with lots of love and light.
Wonder
you.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. Hmm.
Dwindling presence.
Doing what? Sorry.
Dwindling presence. It's like presence is like beings leaving. It's like, oh, the energy sees that go and then it readjusts. It comes back. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's like as a group, right? As people exit, that energy exits, right? It's still there. It's like leaves awake, and it's like, oh, then we come back to our presence here. Isn't that so cool?
It just divided our our collective presence to a separate presence.
Heinz, what's
Yep.
going on new in your life?
I had a visit from Norway this week, and he went home early this morning. And then my son came, and I helped him carry those things up. And now he's going to Sweden to visit his brother.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's not my son. The brother is not my son. It's his foster.
New things about their stories be forgotten. TV Cotton is live. Good morning, TV.
I didn't bring that Israeli flag filled with entire plaza carried by supporters. Hope to send a message to diplomats arriving here in New York City this week. People here tell me they hope for the.
Sorry, I'll just mute that background noise. Thanks. You can hear the news, I think, in the background.
Well, we know that diplomats are coming.
Yeah, I was thinking
And
it's like,
sorry.
go ahead, Hans.
Oh, I just thought it's funny that they call them diplomats because they're not really good at diplomacy.
It's a role.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's all about how it can serve them, that role. It's not about how they can serve us.
Yeah.
Right? It starts with good intentions.
When you realize that that's no possibility you're gonna get through life with good intentions, well, and it turns into who's paying you the most.
Free will, buddy, free will. And for those of us that it's not working for, we're trying to change it and can't, huh?
Exactly.
And I think a way to do that is just seeing things as they are.
I think if they knew what we knew, they would run the world differently.
I do too. I think it would be. I do too. And they get what they wanted.
And they kept their promises.
Yep. Like everyone would, right? It's like when we come as a collective, right? And we see it, what is it? Like we can look at it, what is it? Well, we're on a world like together, right? That's fragile. Our species is fragile as humans. Like, let's work together. And we'll all have more than enough. Right?
That's the thing. There's always
yeah.
enough. That's the thing. We do have plenty of everything. You take an apple and you can grow an apple tree. They don't want to tell you about the apple tree. They only tell you about, well, we are missing an apple. They're so focused on what they haven't instead of looking at all the things we have.
That money because they want to do a good job educating children. Why do you think that this is not a front and center issue? How we are failing our children across the nation and they are underperforming grade level in dramatic ways, 75, 80% in some cases. Why isn't it?
You know, it's funny. It's like what happens, right? Like what, like the news, right? We heard it there. Like whatever they're talking about, right? It's like, oh, all it does is create a chemical reaction. That's all it is.
Creates new boundaries of limitations.
Yep. It's like, oh, those boundaries are just chemical reactions.
Yep. If you sat down and listened to 1 hour of news, and then you ask yourself, what does this have to do with me? Nothing.
But it just takes hard drive in your brain. Oh, it does. And then you think about it, you talk about it, so you grow it, right?
Yep.
And you take even more space.
Yep.
You keep feeding chemical reactions. Like they're in our body. That's our feelings are just those chemical reactions to what's happening. We were talking earlier. It's like there's also they say we have 1 trillion chemical reactions going on in our body every second. Trillions.
Whoa.
Right? And it's like that food that I ate from out there goes into there and it comes out there. We don't see what happens on the inside unless we really like go in there and look, which, you know, we have some tools we can, but if those of us that can't, we don't know, like we don't feel those chemical reactions happening, do we? I mean, sometimes we might be aware, like, oh, I got a stomach ache or like heartburn, right? But it's like, that's going on all the time. What does it feel like to digest your food? It's not hungry.
Feels aggressive.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. The more we become aware of the simple things with our body, the more we can control the big things in our body.
Yeah. And it's like I make up I'm not good enough, or I make up you think I'm not good enough. And oh my God, does my chemical reaction trigger to that?
Then the question starts, why am I not good enough?
Right.
Why
I
do
go
I
to
think
defend it. I go to defend it. I go, what makes you think that? Like, what right do you have to do that to me, right? So I'll fight you for it. It's my fight to be right. So I begin to see that chemical reaction, feel it coming, because it happens so quickly, right? It's so quick. It's like I got to slow down my time in between those reactions so that I can choose how I want to respond. That takes a lot of practice, a lot of awareness. I mean, it's not, I mean, because it just happens, like through digestion.
And it's funny, in the world we are taught to speed up. We are not taught to slow down.
Oh man, right? Yep. Slow down and sit in the silence. That is not what everyone does.
Nope. Stop and smell the flowers. Who does it?
Look at the rock. Like, get curious about the rock. Yeah, who does that? That's a waste of time.
Where
Because
did
time
the
is
rock
money.
come from?
And money is success. And money in success proves form pattern, feeding a pattern, feeding a pattern. It's just Jess's pattern, right? My point is everyone has their own version of a pattern.
Then it comes down to which one has the right pattern. Well, if it's you, then you have the right pattern for you.
That's what works and what doesn't, right?
Yeah.
That's how it comes down to.
Just because it works for other people doesn't mean it works for you that way.
You know,
I find that true with most advice.
Mm.
And I agree, just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work the same way for you. There could be some radically different results.
Yep.
it was interesting. I was paired with another driver yesterday, and he's, to me, appears pretty angry when he's driving, right? So like he's got pretty much like his arm on the arrow arm, and every time like someone is just say burning a stop sign or red light or turning illegally, whatever, it doesn't even like affect him, but it makes it affect him. You know, so he sees something like that would be at the next corner, and he's just like, and I'm like, and it was just like, wow. And it was good to be the observer of that. You know, and then I love talking to people, and they go much deeper than that shallow talking that most people do. And then like I asked him about his upbringing, right? Like how's his family and all that stuff. And he told me like, and he wasn't complaining about it, it was strange to me because he complains about everything else. right? But like when it came to his family, like his sister, she's got Down syndromes, and then like Alzheimer. He lost a brother, like, and he get teased a lot at work. And I was kind of digging in, right? Like, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Like just kind of, but at the same time, just to be on the observer, right? And then like, just support him, not point him like, oh yeah, you should be doing this or you should be doing that, because that's my pattern, right? Like, oh, I know for you what you need, you know, I'll tell you, you know.
Yeah, Pascal.
But no, I
Yoda.
was
Go
just kind
Yoda.
of, yeah, I was just kind of on the observer seat, and it's just like, okay. If he asks something, yeah, I'll tell him, but that's it, right? Like it's, and I bite my tongue quite a few times, I'd say, right? But it was good. It was good, yeah. So
That is a hard pattern to break because
yeah,
those thoughts come instantly to your mind and they want to just jump to your mouth.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not hesitating, they're not taking a pause. So that takes a lot of strength to do that.
Yeah, and the thing, like, if I would ask just a simple question, do you think events happen to you or for you? Right? Just something like that. But like, I was like, no, I think it's a little too much still. He's gonna be like, oh, what are you talking about? Right? But it's hard when you do the work, right? And you see people not do. It's my perspective, I guess, but like they do work or something else, but like, and you're like, I know maybe a little bit more than you do, maybe, right? And then like, I'm here to help, but in the same time, I don't know if you're ready to hear it. Right? So, and I do that with my sibling, especially my brother. Like, we'll be talking about cars and whatever, like his work and this and that. And then like, and all of a sudden, like, I'll be like, I'll have a flash and I can be like, oh, I gotta tell him this. And then it goes on and on and on. He's like, yeah, I gotta go now. Right? Because like a little too much, right? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Gotta damp it down a little bit, So that discernment, right? Like, who's really ready to hear what I have to say? And the same thing for him, right? Like, he's in accounting, and then like if he talks to me about accounting, like, yeah, he lost me, right? I'm just like, whatever, dude, right? It's just
Well, I'm getting a
it
visitor
goes right
now.
over my head.
So you all have a blessed day.
You're getting
Bye,
what?
nice.
I'm getting a visitor now. She's coming.
You're getting visit?
Oh,
Yeah.
gee,
Oh,
great.
nice.
Gee, all right.
Yeah. You all have a
Enjoy your
good
Tell him-
day.
visit.
Bye.
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 I love that, Pascal. Just speaks to your awareness, right? Your skill, your practice of it. So many times that urge, right? And we don't even think about it. We fire back with something, or we just do something, we say something, right? And just what we always do. And it's like, I hear you as the observer. It's like observing it for what it is. Yes, we're always going to attach a meaning to it. But the point is like to look at the meaning that we're putting on it, because that is our past.
Yeah.
That is how we've seen it. And it's to be like, wow, why would I choose that? Why would I look at it like that?
Mm-hmm.
That's curiosity. That's an open mind. In everything you read, the keys are like openness, curiosity, right? That's the best thing for knowledge.
Yeah.
And you think that it's the best thing for connecting with another human, for building trust, for love, like for all those things that we find important.
Hmm. It was so funny. Like, I gotta tell you this. So we had about, I don't know, 15 minutes before like to dump our first bin. And then like he says like, oh, I gotta hug a tree. And in my mind, I was like, oh, he's talking about grounding, you know? No, he's talking about going for a piss.
Yep. Yep.
And then like I had no freaking idea. And I said like, oh, I love grounding too, man. Like I take off my shoes all the time and oh my God. He's like, no, I was gonna find this little bush here or something.
I'm gonna water
like,
it.
oh my God.
I see why you didn't ask him now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's this nut job?
Yeah. He's like, what? Take off my shoes and hugging a tree? What? I didn't know this expression, right? Oh my God.
What are
I thought
you
he wants to give
talking about?
love. He wants to give love to the tree, but no. No, that wasn't it. He wants to piss on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard that expression. I've heard water a tree, right? But
Okay.
never hug a tree.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's the way he talks.
Exactly, right? It's like, okay.
Right. Yeah, and then after that, you just gotta shut up, right? Like he was just saying. He wasn't really interested in see how I
Grounding?
ground.
He wasn't curious about that, huh?
No, I wasn't going to say, yeah, I've got like a bed sheet on my on my bed, and then I ground all night. What?
Did you tell him
You
about
piss-
blocking?
You piss? I did.
Yeah.
Well, he talked to me about his knees and stuff, so I open up with my back, right? And I was like, well,
Okay.
this really helped, right? So,
Yeah, nice.
but like I didn't go further than that, you know?
Yeah, it didn't seem. It just seemed like it was a. It seemed like there was probably a pretty good crust over the top of that.
Yeah,
Over anything.
yeah, like hard crust that needs to be break down with a shovel, let's say.
Yeah. Meaning it's like got to come from the inside out.
Yeah, and then it's like protecting himself, right? Like I think because he's been getting teased a lot at work, like he's got this big shell, right?
Yep.
Like he won't open up, like and he won't be even curious at that kind of stuff, right? Not yet, anyway.
Yep. Yeah. We're all at some place in our journey.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what
I know
learning.
less now. I know less now than I did 4 years ago when I had my enlightenment moment, I would say.
Right.
That shit ain't gonna work. I need to do something different.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. Like I just had a session with a cranial sacral practitioner. I wasn't going to say that. You would be like, what? What is this? Cranial sacral?
Yeah, you're taking away his focus from judging other people, Pascal.
Right. Yeah.
You just got to jump into judging people, and you guys would be able to talk about everything.
But I was going, like, it was good because I was always like kind of steering him back to, you know, like to the positive, right? Like,
yeah.
and like his work ethic, I was like, okay, all right, that's interesting. You know, like you've been around this block 4 times and you haven't picked up anything yet, but no, that's the way of working, I guess, right? It's and then now I'm like, oh, maybe I understand more why you can't finish a beat now, right? Like maybe, right? But it's funny because like I told him like a little bit like how I work, right? And he was like, oh yeah, those dots like that you mark all your everything on the map, like, well, that doesn't work for me. I'm like, well, okay. I guess because they, you know, like if I don't know something, well, I'm gonna mirror exactly the same thing as someone else that it works. And then like I'll review it and readjust, right? Like I'll bend the rule after. But I'll follow like a main driver that's been doing this for like 10 years, say, no, he's new. And then like it's like, no, that's not sequence at all. Oh my God. You know, and then like it's just funny. I had a good laugh inside.
It's like I'm gonna do it my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means I'm right, and if that's like taking the forefront in something important, then that will always be the driver of important decisions in life. Of let me prove that I am right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out why it's not working. Why my life is not working out in that pattern.
Right. But it's like now I see like pretty challenging life, right? Like I think
Yeah.
that passed as well. Like he lives with his mom, I believe, and his sister that he's taking care of, and you know, like might not have as much time like to go inside, but in you know, you guys were talking about something about kids, right? Like to like telling them they're good and all that stuff, but in the same time, like if you tell them, because what came to mind, I was looking at people that had like really challenging life, but they came on top, and they're like, you know, it's like they excel in a lot of things because like they went above these speed bumps, right? Or you can just stay in the bottom of that speed bump and
That's right.
get stuck there too, right? Like,
Yep. Life
there's
doesn't
two
care.
ways.
Life, like nature, doesn't care.
No.
Only
And it
we
wants
do.
all variety, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's so important, right? It's like, oh, I just see the speed bump for what it is. I don't let the speed bump control me.
Right.
I don't let this speed bump, but it's like, oh, there's a speed bump. I go over it. I slow down. I go over it. That's what a speed bump's intended for.
Yeah. Or you judge it. You're like, right? Like, there's so many options you can do with that speed bump, right? Like,
Judge, blame,
you can ignore it, right?
shame, ignore it, avoid it, fight it, resist
Right.
it, right? And flow over it.
No, I used to drive like this road like 70 kilometers an hour. Now, because it's stupid speed bump, I gotta slow down, right? Like,
It's like because of the crosswalk that's up there, right? And it's like, oh, I've never seen any pedestrians in that crosswalk. I can go 55. They need to watch out for me. Here's my air horn. You jaywalker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he works Saturday?
No, on Friday, I'm like, yeah.
yeah, no, it was hilarious, man. Like he pretty much had like one hand on the steering wheel and one on the air horn. I was just like, wow.
I mean, could you imagine how exhausting that is?
Oh man, he looks burnt out. That's for sure.
Well, I wonder, like on edge, right? And it's like,
Yeah,
geez, man,
yeah,
go be a cop or something.
yeah. And then I asked him, right, like politely in the morning. I says like, do you want me to help you navigate, or like you know where you're going? And the crazy thing, like he grew up in this neighborhood, and like it's like he just arrived there, it's kind of weird. And like I was just like, okay, yeah, like so I let him do it at first, and I'm like, okay, you know what, like
100 and
punch
then
the first one, and then like I'll punch the next one, right? Like it's just so we were working better because like he was a little complaining. He was like, oh, we only have half page, and then like we're already 2 hours in. Like, yeah, well, if you stop driving around the block, maybe maybe if we pick up ends at one point. But yeah, that's me
So
judging.
you were practicing patience yesterday, huh?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were patiently present. Patiently
He
present.
gave me motion sickness, man. Like before the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna walk to these 3 bins. I don't think you need my help anyway. So I was like, yeah, take some fresh air here.
Let me roll them to you.
Oh man, it's too funny, man.
That's funny. I love when we can see ourselves in that our old version of ourselves, right?
Yeah, and then asking like, how is it me, right? Because we're all one. How is it me, right? And it's just a different flavor, right? Different flavor that maybe like I was there maybe at one point. I'm sure, right?
It reminds me of a story. I grew up in Montana, so like I grew up in a very small town. Like 1,500 people was the school. My high school had 400 kids in it. Grade school had maybe like all eighth grade had like 50 kids, kind of thing. And and so I grew up there, went to school. It was 30,000 people. It was like the first town I lived in that had a stoplight was when I went to school, right? And it was a city, like there were 30,000 people or so, right? And then I go down to California and I go to Bakersfield, 400,000. I lived there for a while, and I go back to recruit, right? So they send me back a year later to recruit. I get in late and I'm anxious to get to the bar, to the old college bar, right? To see it again. And there is a line of red stoplights, right, all the way up the hill for like 2 miles, just a row of red stoplights with no cars.
Oh, yeah.
And I am just feeling like so tense, and I like for the whole trip, and then I was like, to the moment I was like, what am I so tense for? I go, there's nobody here. And it was like, oh, that's when it hit me. It was like, that's what California had done for me, like to me. It's like that anxious, like that traffic, right? And like there was no traffic, yet I still had like the chemicals were still running.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, how fascinating that is. It's like that's how my body evolved, just being in that move.
Wow. Yeah, it's
so
like yeah, go finish your story.
I was just gonna like I can relate to like this guy, right? And I can relate to that, and it was like it's just stress. Thanks.
Yeah, it's funny is that this story, it sounds like we all have a version of it.
Mhm.
Maybe in a different area of our life, right? It might not be driving. It might be something else, right? It might be in relationship. It might be in business. It might be whatever, right? But we do because we're all one, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, same thing. Like I live in Banff for 10 years and traffic is pretty much, well, there is traffic, but it's so short. And then you're coming to a city. I remember like living in Banff and coming to Calgary and then going shopping. And I mean, they improved a lot, but they used to have like a lot of lights and you were feeling anxious of being in traffic, but other people, they do that like 5 days a week. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unfamiliar.
That's right. Yeah. More higher awareness, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Heightened, we call it. We can say heightened awareness. It's like, oh.
And I was always like telling my girlfriend, I'm like, okay, we have to leave by 3 o'clock or we're leaving by 7. Your choice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But in the same time, like I wasn't willing to wait in traffic and I didn't know like how long really it's gonna be. You know, because back then GPS were not very good, I would say, right?
Yeah.
You know, they were like these Garmin, but like
you had the map, you had the physical map.
Yeah. It didn't tell you the traffic though.
Did not update that did not update traffic.
Yeah, they didn't update the traffic every 2 minutes, you know.
Well, every time I look at it, right, it was updated.
Yeah.
The map, the physical map does not do that.
And even like a construction zone or anything like that, it's not on there. I looked many times on the map. You know, so that changed a lot. It changed a lot. But yeah, that's really interesting that you were going back to your old town and then like seeing the pattern that it was ingrained in you, right? Like it's imprinted, you know, like it's almost like a tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it took, you know, it's like a 20-minute drive, right? So it took like 15 minutes for me to like build up to the point where I noticed it, right?
Yeah.
And that was well before I did any work, like to where I'm at now. But I think about it as like I had to look at it to say, what is this? And then the answer came, and it was like, oh, then I could let it go.
Mm-hmm. When you create space for it, come up, right?
That's right.
Be curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because like I took I think he calls it a master class of communication. And so they were like, oh, if you want to keep going hearing his voice, because like he's such a good communicator, like it's unbelievable. And then he's got a podcast. And I'm like, okay, like let's see what they're doing. So like it's 2 friends and they're reviewing books. But because he's such a good communicator, like I was like, well, let's listen to one of them. And one of them is like Power of Now, right? By Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've read it.
Yep.
And yeah, you have? Okay. I have, but like I don't remember like as much as they do remember. So it was really interesting. And then like he was like, man, I couldn't believe like how virgin I am in spirituality. And you know, like when I was taking the course, the master class, like it was really good, you know, like talking about communication, but I could have a sense that this area was lacking on. You know, he was a lot in his head. And he admitted, like when he was like in the podcast, he was like, man, this is new to me. You know, awareness and then like be aware of my breath and my body and stuff. He says like, I don't think I ever been in my body, right? Like it's just, and that was extremely interesting. And then like, so if you want to listen to it, it's really good. It's called the Vin and Ali Show, just on Spotify. But they might have a YouTube as well. So
What was it? Say the name again.
Vin, so VINH, and Ali, Ali ALI.
Great. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
don't think they have like that many shows, maybe like 30 or 40, something like that. But it's yeah, and it's good because I took this master class, now I can see what he's really doing.
Or see
right?
more.
Like,
see more.
Yeah, like you know,
Not
I
all
see
of it,
now
not
like
all of
when
it, just more.
no, yeah, exactly. Like when he's slowing down, when he's changing his voice, when he's, you know, pausing, like when he's starting telling story, analogy, like he brings it all together, right? Like 'cause he mastered this skill, right? But he put a lot of time to it. All his energy was going to that, right? So.
A lot of awareness. Like he was putting a lot of awareness to it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he says, well, this awareness thing is new to me. It's like, oh, well, you did it to get really good at that.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a different way, right? Like he wasn't really paying attention at his breath, but he was really paying attention at his voice, because he's the one that came up with it's called like kind of like you take a video of yourself or like, well, at the end he says like we have to take for 10 minutes, and then the first time you turn your phone over and you just listen to it, and then you shut off the voice, and then you watch yourself, because it's all about, you know, also like your gesture and stuff, right? And the next one is you get it translated, and then you see your non-filler words and like the ah and and the so and all these words that we use instead of pausing.
Yep.
And then like you do that like every month, right? Like, but yeah, he was aware of that kind of stuff, right? So it was a different awareness, right? Like,
yeah.
His energy, his focus was on that.
That's right.
But like, yeah, like the awareness of like scanning his body and like observing his breath, it was all new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even in the show, he took like 3 deep breaths, and he was like, "Oh my God!" Like, I'm already like feeling like my mind is clearer. Right? But yeah, if you listen to any of them, like it's just his way of communicating. Like it's so engaging, right?
seductive. Yeah. Well, I will. I'll go check it out. Thank you. I'm working just finishing a book, Super Communicators now. Super Communicators, really good book.
Super communicator. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Super Communicator, something like that. Yeah, really, the author did a really good job with it.
Yeah.
Really
Who's
around
the
the power.
author?
I don't remember the name of him. I can look it up here though.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like the power of words, right? It's like he gives examples, very practical book. I got it right here on Audible.
Okay.
Super Communicators. Charles Duhigg. I probably butchered that. Charles Duhigg. Duhigg.
Oh yeah, that's hard to pronounce anyway.
And it's how to unlock the secret of language. How to unlock the secret language of connections. So.
And what makes you choose that?
Part of a group that we work books in. We've been working awareness of emotions. So I'd say we've been working awareness of feelings and like how important. So it's we knew each other from another knowledge class, if you will, group, and
yeah,
a lot of what to do, but no conversation around the being. And so we are exploring our being, who we are, and so that was part of the book of like how can we become more effective in our lives. And so
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, just to me, like when you said that, like about the book, like right away, like when I heard connection, like, yeah, this is the key word for me.
Yep. And so like in the connection, it's like, oh, well, if I'm looking, so I'm looking for where am I dividing then? Because that is my automatic, that is our society's tendency. It's like, where are we dividing?
Yeah.
Because then we're not connected. And that's what we're looking for. We're trying to make more connections in our life.
Yeah. Yeah, deeper connection, right?
That's right. And it was like relating with people, right? Seeing their point of view, being open and curious, right? Willing to see their point, their side, and go in that, go there with them. And, part of it is like, we're so fixed in how we see it. We don't realize there's a whole other way to see things. And that's the point of seeing, like, what is the beginning to see, like, oh, what is that? What's there? What is this? How is it?
Yeah, no, it's really good.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, and I really feel like, I'll say one more thing and then
please.
I would say, like, if you have like 40 friends, for example, like it's pretty much impossible to go deep with them. You know what I mean? So I feel like, I wouldn't say like because of COVID, but it's the event of COVID made me realize that like some shallow relationship that, they were not going anywhere, right? Like they were kind of stagnant, and other, like they wanted to go further and further. And it's kind of create that space now, right? Like it's just, okay. Yeah, these people, it's not like to say yeah, you can't be my friend anymore or whatever, but like spending a little bit less time to create more room for the people that I want to build something deeper, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I do. You know, like so like when we see things for how they are, what they are, right? We allow that, we go through, we release whatever's there, and so then we come to the next one and we see it differently. So we begin to see things differently. And it's like that's what I hear you explaining. Is like you begin to evolve going through deeper levels, right? Deeper awareness, deeper consciousness, higher consciousness, whatever it is, right? And it's just like, oh, things are become like as we go deeper, different things become important. And it's part of our like to what to uncover next. We have to gravitate towards these other people, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like, buddy yesterday, like, I'll go for a beer with him, you know what I mean? But I won't go for a breathwork session with him, right? Like, and I won't be talking about my feelings, right? So, right? So it's like, you found, like, it's being aware more of like where you're vibrating, or your frequency, and then you're like, okay, yeah, like it doesn't match, but like it's not like I'm gonna erase you from my life, because you're part of me and I'm part of you. You're part of me and I'm part of you. But I'm gonna be focusing less on that, right? Putting less energy towards it. Yeah. No, great conversation, Jesse. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Pascal. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a
wonderful day.
Thanks, Mona. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Or here
the next day.
tomorrow.
Next day. Next time.
Yeah.
Bye, Pascal.
Okay, bye.